The communication room buzzed with quiet tension as Captain Hyun-Soo Park adjusted his uniform. Around him, Earth's most powerful military leaders sat in silence. Admiral So-Young Kim drummed her fingers on the metal table. General Min-Ho Lee stared at the massive screen that would soon broadcast their message across the galaxy. "Are we really doing this?" asked Commander Jin Woo Han from his position near the door. President Dong Hyun-yoon looked up from his prepared speech. His face showed no fear, only determination. "We have no choice. They think we are weak. They think we are animals to be caged." Dr. Yoon-ji Choi entered the room carrying a data pad. Her research on the galactic hegemony had kept her awake for weeks. The alien empire controlled 12 sectors of space. They had conquered hundreds of worlds. Now they wanted Earth. "The alien fleet is 3 days away from our outer sensors," she reported. "Intelligence shows they expect easy victory." Admiral So-Young Kim stood up. Her gray hair was pulled back tight. Her eyes held the look of someone who had seen too many wars. "Let them think that. We have surprises they cannot imagine." The galactic hegemony called it integration. Dr. Yoon-ji Choi called it slavery. She had decoded their messages. The aliens spoke of humans like farmers spoke of cattle. They planned to use human bodies for labor. Human minds would be controlled with neural implants. Human children would be raised as servants. "They have done this to over 300 species," she said quietly. "None have ever fought back successfully." Captain Hyun-Soo Park walked to the center of the room. His voice was calm but strong. "Then we will be the first." The communication array powered up. Across the galaxy, every major civilization would receive their message. The hegemony leadership would hear it first. So would their slave species on distant worlds. President Dong Hyun-yoon took his place in front of the camera. Behind him stood Earth's United Command. No single nation controlled this moment. Humanity spoke with one voice. "Begin transmission," ordered Admiral So-Young Kim. The red light blinked on. President Dong Hyun-yoon looked directly into the camera. His words would travel faster than light to every corner of hegemony space. To the leadership of the galactic hegemony, to all species under their control, and to any who might be listening across the stars. "This is President Dong Hyun-yoon of the United Earth Government." He paused. The weight of history pressed down on the room. "By order of the Terran Sovereignty Council, all vessels of the galactic hegemony are hereby prohibited from entering Terran space. This includes the Sol system and all territories claimed by humanity. Any violation of this decree will result in immediate military action." Dr. Yoon-ji Choi watched the transmission indicators. The message was spreading across subspace networks. Soon it would reach the hegemony capital world. President Dong Hyun-yoon continued. "For too long your empire has treated thinking beings as property. You have destroyed cultures. You have enslaved worlds. You have convinced yourselves that might makes right." General Min-Ho Lee smiled grimly. He had been planning this moment for 5 years. Earth's defenses were not what they seemed. "Humanity rejects your authority," the president declared. "We reject your right to rule over others. We reject your claim to our world and our freedom. From this moment forward, Earth stands independent." The message was being recorded on 1,000 alien worlds. Slave species who had never heard defiance would witness something new. "Hope. We know you consider us primitive. We know you think your technology makes you gods. We know you believe conquest is natural law." President Dong Hyun-yoon's voice grew stronger. "You are wrong on all counts." Commander Jin Woo Han checked his watch. The hegemony fleet was still 3 days out. They would receive this message in 30 minutes. Their reaction would be predictable. Captain Hyun-Soo Park remembered the first alien contact. The hegemony ambassador had been polite but clear. Earth would submit or be destroyed. There were no other options. The aliens' confidence had been absolute. "Let this message serve as your only warning," President Dong Hyun-yoon concluded. "Turn your fleets around. Abandon your plans for Earth. Leave Terran space and never return. This is not a negotiation. This is a fact." The transmission ended. The red light went dark. For a moment, nobody spoke. Dr. Yoon-ji Choi broke the silence. "The hegemony Supreme Chancellor is named Vextar. He has never been defied, not once in 300 years of rule." "Then he is about to learn something new," said Admiral So-Young Kim. Across the galaxy, the message played on hegemony ships. Alien officers stared at their screens in disbelief. A primitive world was threatening their empire. It was impossible. On the Hegemony flagship, Supreme Chancellor Vextar watched the transmission 3 times. His forearms gestured in rage. His compound eyes glowed with fury. "Impossible," he hissed in his native tongue. "A backward world dares threaten us." His war marshal, Kethvar, activated tactical displays. The human world showed no significant defenses. Their technology was centuries behind hegemony standards. Their population was small. "Perhaps they do not understand our power," suggested Kethvar. Supreme Chancellor Vextar's mandibles clicked together. "Then we will educate them. Increase speed to maximum. I want this world broken within 1 day." Back on Earth, the leadership watched alien communications. The hegemony response was exactly as predicted. Anger, disbelief, increased. "Aggression, they are coming faster now," reported Dr. Yoonji Choi. 2 days instead of 3. General Min Ho Lee activated secure channels to military bases worldwide. "All units prepare for Operation Homecoming. This is not a drill." Captain Hyun-Soo Park suited up for his flight to the outer system. His ship would be part of the first line of defense. It looked primitive compared to alien vessels. That was intentional. Admiral So-Young Kim studied star charts showing hegemony fleet positions. Over 50,000 ships were approaching Earth. Each one could destroy a city. Together they could crack a planet. "They still think this will be easy," she said to President Dong Hyun-yoon. The president nodded. "Good. Let them think that until the very end." Dr. Yoonji Choi gathered her research files. The alien psychology was predictable. They saw resistance as temporary madness. They had never fought a species that refused to surrender. "They do not understand us," she said quietly. Commander Jin Woo Han checked his equipment one final time. "Then we will teach them." The room began to empty. Each person had duties to perform. The next 2 days would determine humanity's fate. President Dong Hyun-yoon remained behind, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, an alien empire was learning that Earth would not go quietly into slavery. The ultimatum had been delivered. Now came the test. Commander Jin Woo Han stood on the bridge of the Earth vessel Defiant. Through the view screen, Jupiter's massive form dominated the darkness of space. His small fleet of 12 ships looked tiny against the giant planet's swirling storms. "Contact on long-range sensors," reported Lieutenant Bo-Ra Shin from her station. "The alien fleet is entering the outer system." Jin Woo Han nodded calmly. "How many ships?" "Over 50,000, sir. They are moving in standard attack formation." Behind Jupiter's shadow, Engineer Hyjin Park worked frantically at her control station. For 3 years, she had coordinated the secret project that would change everything. The asteroid belt looked normal to alien scanners. It was anything but normal. "All kinetic accelerators are online," she reported through the communication system. "Targeting computers are locked and ready." The plan was simple but required perfect timing. The hegemony fleet expected to find weak human defenses near Earth. Instead, they would encounter what appeared to be a small patrol force near Jupiter. The aliens would advance confidently into the asteroid belt, thinking they faced only primitive fusion drives and basic energy weapons. Supreme War Marshal Kethvar commanded the Hegemony First Fleet from his flagship, Eternal Dominion. His tactical displays showed the pathetic human force hiding behind the gas giant. 12 small ships against 50,000 advanced warships. "Scan their vessels," he ordered his subordinates. "I want to know what weapons they carry." The scan results made him laugh. Fusion drives. Kinetic cannons. Energy shields barely stronger than our maintenance pods. He turned to his communications officer. "Send a message to Supreme Chancellor Vextar. Tell him this integration will be completed ahead of schedule." On Earth, President Dong Hyun-yoon watched the tactical displays in the command bunker beneath Geneva. Admiral So-Young Kim stood beside him, her face showing no emotion. Dr. Yoonji Choi monitored alien communications from her station nearby. "The enemy commander is named Kethvar," she reported. "He is known for quick victories. He believes overwhelming force ends battles before they begin." "Good," said Admiral So-Young Kim. "Arrogance makes enemies predictable." The hegemony fleet spread out as it entered the asteroid belt. War Marshal Kethvar wanted to surround the human ships quickly. His battle plan called for a demonstration of power. Destroy half the human vessels, capture the rest. Use prisoners to convince Earth to surrender without damaging valuable property. Commander Jin Woo Han watched the alien formation on his tactical display. "They are spreading out just as we expected. Are our people in position?" "All ships report ready." replied Lieutenant Bo-Ra Shin. Captain Sung-Min Ko confirms the mining stations are prepared. The mining stations looked exactly like what they claimed to be. Small industrial platforms scattered throughout the asteroid belt, harvesting minerals and ice. Hegemony scanners showed human workers and basic equipment. The aliens saw no threat from commercial mining operations. Engineer Hyejin Park smiled as she watched her hidden weapons come online. Each mining station contained a kinetic accelerator, powerful enough to launch asteroids at tremendous speeds. The asteroids themselves had been carefully selected and positioned over 3 years of secret work. Estimated time to optimal firing position, asked Commander Jin Woo-han. 18 minutes, sir, replied Engineer Hyejin Park. The lead alien ships will be at point 07 when we activate. War Marshal Kethvar studied the approaching human vessels. They were not running. This surprised him slightly. Most primitive species fled when faced with impossible odds. Perhaps humans were too stupid to understand their situation. Open a communication channel, he ordered. I will offer them one chance to surrender. The message reached Commander Jin Woo-han's ship within seconds. The alien's translated voice sounded bored and confident. Human vessels, this is War Marshal Kethvar of the Galactic Hegemony First Fleet. Your resistance is pointless. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Your compliance will be noted in your integration records. Commander Jin Woo-han looked around his bridge. Every face showed determination. These men and women had volunteered for a mission that might end in death. Not one of them showed fear. Reply to the alien commander, he told his communications officer. The response was brief and clear. War Marshal Kethvar, this is Commander Jin Woo-han of the Terran Defense Fleet. You have entered our space without permission. Leave now or face the consequences. On the Hegemony flagship, junior officers gasped at the human response. Never in the Empire's history had a primitive species spoken this way to their superiors. War Marshal Kethvar felt his anger rising. Arm all weapons. Target their lead vessel. These animals need to learn respect. But Admiral So-young Kim had planned for this reaction. Commander Jin Woo-han's orders were clear. Make the aliens angry. Make them careless. Draw them deeper into the trap. All ships, execute evasive pattern Delta, ordered Commander Jin Woo-han. Stay close to the larger asteroids. The human ships began weaving between the floating rocks. To hegemony sensors, it looked like panic. The primitive humans were hiding behind asteroids like frightened children. Pathetic, commented War Marshal Kethvar. Advance the fleet. I want those ships captured intact. Engineer Hyejin Park watched the alien formation enter the killing zone. Thousands of warships moved through the asteroid field in neat formations. Their shields were raised but not at maximum power. Why waste energy on floating rocks and terrified humans? 15 minutes to optimal position, she reported. All accelerators show green status. On Earth, General Min-ho Lee coordinated with defense bases on Mars and the Moon. The asteroid belt operation was only the first step. If it failed, Earth would face direct invasion within hours. Ground-based railguns are charged and ready, he reported to President Dong-hyun Yoon. Lunar missile batteries are online. Mars defense grid is active. What about the evacuation centers, asked the president. All major cities have been cleared. Civilians are in hardened bunkers. We are as ready as we can be. Back in the asteroid belt, War Marshal Kethvar was growing impatient. The human ships continued their pathetic evasion pattern. His weapons could destroy them easily, but orders required capturing some vessels intact. Deploy capture nets, he commanded. Box them in against that large asteroid cluster. The hegemony ships moved into the formation engineer Hyejin Park had calculated. Their positions were perfect. Thousands of alien vessels clustered together in the densest part of the asteroid field. 10 minutes to optimal firing position, she announced. Commander Jin Woo. Han felt sweat on his forehead despite the cool air of the bridge. Everything depended on the next few minutes. If the kinetic accelerators failed, his small fleet would be destroyed in seconds. Message from Admiral Kim, reported Lieutenant Bo-Ra Shin. She wishes us good hunting. Dr. Yoon-ji. Choi continued monitoring alien communications from Earth. The enemy was confident, too confident. War Marshal Kethvar was already planning his victory celebration. 5 minutes to optimal position, announced Engineer Hyejin Park. All systems green. Targeting solutions locked. War Marshal Kethvar smiled as his fleet surrounded the human vessels. Soon this embarrassing resistance would end. The humans would serve the hegemony like every other conquered species. He had no idea that in 4 minutes and 37 seconds, his understanding of warfare would change forever. Engineer Hyojin Park's finger hovered over the activation control. Around her, the mining station hummed with hidden power. Through the view screen she could see hegemony warships moving into perfect position. 3 minutes to optimal firing solution, she announced over the communication network. Captain Sung-min Ko watched from his concealed position behind a massive asteroid. His mining platform looked exactly like a commercial operation. Hegemony sensors showed only industrial equipment and civilian workers. The aliens had no idea they were staring at the most powerful weapon humanity had ever built. War Marshal Kethvar studied his tactical display with satisfaction. The human ships were trapped between his forces and a large asteroid cluster. Their primitive weapons posed no threat to hegemony shields. This would be a perfect demonstration of imperial power. Begin boarding operations, he ordered. I want prisoners for interrogation. Commander Jin Wuhan received the signal he had been waiting for. All ships execute pattern Omega. Maximum evasive action. The 12 human vessels scattered like startled fish. To the aliens, it looked like panic. The primitive humans had finally realized their hopeless situation. They were running in all directions, seeking shelter behind floating rocks. Lieutenant Bo-Ra Shin piloted her fighter with careful precision. Every movement was calculated to draw alien ships deeper into the trap. Her job was to make the enemy think humans fought with desperation instead of planning. Enemy vessels are pursuing, she reported. They are spreading out to surround us. Engineer Hyojin Park smiled grimly. Perfect. 1 minute to firing position. On Earth, Admiral So-Young Kim watched the battle through real-time sensors. The hegemony fleet had taken the bait completely. Thousands of alien warships were now clustered in the densest part of the asteroid field. All stations report. Ready, she announced to President Dong-hyun. Yoon. The trap is set. Dr. Yoonji Choi monitored alien communications. War Marshal Kethvar was already claiming victory. He spoke of integration schedules and resource allocation. The alien commander saw humans as defeated before the battle truly began. 30 seconds to optimal position, announced Engineer Hyojin Park. War Marshal. Kethvar noticed something strange on his sensors. The asteroids around his fleet seemed to be moving slightly. His science officer reported minor gravitational fluctuations, probably some natural phenomenon caused by the gas giant's massive gravity well. 20 seconds, said Engineer Hyojin Park. Captain Sung-min Ko gripped his command chair. Years of planning and preparation came down to the next few moments. If the kinetic accelerators failed, humanity would face extinction within days. 10 seconds, announced Engineer Hyojin Park. War Marshal Kethvar frowned at his displays. The asteroid movements were becoming more pronounced. Several of his subordinates reported similar readings. 5 seconds, said Engineer Hyojin Park. 4, 3, 2, 1, fire. Engineer Hyojin Park slammed her palm down on the activation control. Throughout the asteroid belt, kinetic accelerators came online simultaneously. Powerful magnetic fields grabbed carefully positioned asteroids and hurled them at incredible speeds. Chunks of rock and metal that had floated peacefully for millions of years became projectiles moving at significant fractions of light. Speed. War Marshal Kethvar had exactly 3 seconds to realize what was happening before the first asteroid struck his flagship. The hegemony shields, designed to deflect energy weapons and small debris, were useless against multi-ton rocks moving at relativistic velocities. The lead asteroid punched through the Eternal Dominion's defensive screens like they were made of paper. The impact tore through 17 decks before exploding in the ship's reactor core. War Marshal Kethvar died instantly, along with 3,000 of his crew. His flagship broke apart in a brilliant flash of released energy. All across the hegemony formation, asteroids struck home with devastating effect. Ships that had conquered worlds were torn apart like toys. Advanced alien technology meant nothing against basic physics applied with human ingenuity. Captain Sung-min Ko watched his targeting display with grim satisfaction. Direct hits on over 4,000 enemy vessels. Continuing bombardment, the kinetic accelerators fired again and again. Each salvo sent hundreds of asteroids racing toward the alien fleet. The hegemony ships tried to maneuver, but they were packed too tightly together. Evasive action only resulted in collisions between their own vessels. Commander Jin Wuhan saw his moment. All ships attack pattern Alpha. Target their command vessels. The human fleet, no longer hiding, emerged from behind the asteroids. But these were not the primitive ships the aliens expected. Lieutenant Bo-Ra Shin's fighter moved with impossible precision, using gravity assists and micro-jumps that should have been beyond human technology. Her weapons were not primitive kinetic cannons. They were adapted alien systems, reverse-engineered from captured hegemony equipment and improved by human innovation. Each shot found weak points in enemy shields that the aliens didn't know existed. "How are they doing this?" screamed a hegemony subcommander on an open channel. "These are primitive beings. Their technology is centuries behind ours." Admiral Tae Ho Lim coordinated the attack from his flagship Indomitable. His tactical displays showed alien formations crumbling under the combined assault of kinetic bombardment and precision strikes. "The enemy is breaking formation," he reported. "Their command structure is collapsing." The hegemony had never faced an enemy like humanity. Other species fought with predictable patterns. They used standard tactics and conventional weapons. When faced with overwhelming odds, they surrendered or retreated. Humans did neither. They adapted in real time, learning from every exchange. Each successful alien attack was immediately countered by a new human tactic. Every weakness exposed was exploited within minutes. Lieutenant Bo-Ra Shin used her fighter's small size to dance between enemy fire. She had studied hegemony weapons for months, learning their recharge cycles and targeting limitations. What looked like random evasion was actually mathematical precision. Captain Sung-Min Ko launched the third wave of kinetic bombardment. By now, the asteroid field looked like a storm of flying rocks. Hegemony ships were trapped in a maze of high-velocity debris with nowhere to run. "Enemy fleet strength down to 60%, reported his tactical officer. "They are attempting to retreat." But retreat was impossible. Engineer Hee-Jin Park had positioned her accelerators to create overlapping fields of fire. Every escape route was blocked by streams of flying asteroids. Admiral Tae Ho Lim pressed his advantage. "All ships pursue the fleeing vessels. Do not let any escape to report our capabilities." The human fleet moved like a pack of wolves, surrounding and destroying isolated alien ships. Each human vessel fought independently but coordinated perfectly with the others. There were no rigid formations or predictable patterns. Commander Jin Wuhan watched the tactical display as hegemony resistance collapsed completely. Alien ships that survived the kinetic bombardment were being picked off one by human hunters who seemed to anticipate their every move. "Signal from Earth Command," reported his communications officer. "Admiral Kim sends her congratulations." But the battle was not over. Even as the First Fleet died around them, surviving hegemony ships sent desperate messages toward their home space. They reported impossible human capabilities and devastating new weapons. Dr. Yoonji Choi intercepted those transmissions on Earth. "The alien leadership will know about our tactics within hours. They will send reinforcements." Admiral So-Young Kim nodded grimly. "Then we prepare for the next wave. They will not underestimate us again." In the asteroid belt, the last hegemony ship exploded in brilliant fire. The First Fleet was completely destroyed. Not a single alien vessel escaped to tell the complete story of their defeat. Captain Sung-Min Ko looked out at the debris field that had once been 50,000 enemy warships. "Signal all stations. Prepare for salvage operations. We will need their technology for what comes next." The wolves of Seoul had tasted blood, and they were still hungry. Supreme Chancellor Vextar stared at the emergency reports flooding his command center. The impossible had happened. The First Fleet was gone. 50,000 ships destroyed by a primitive world that should have surrendered without firing a shot. "Explain this to me again," he demanded from his trembling intelligence chief. "The humans used kinetic weapons, Supreme Chancellor. They turned asteroids into projectiles. Our shields were useless against solid matter moving at such velocities." Vextar's forearms gestured in rage. His compound eyes blazed with fury that made his subordinates step backward. In 1,000 years of hegemony rule, no species had ever dealt them such a devastating defeat. "How many survivors?" he asked through clenched mandibles. "None, Supreme Chancellor. No ships escaped to provide detailed tactical reports. On Earth, Colonel Jae-Sung Park supervised the construction of new defensive positions around major cities. The victory in the asteroid belt had bought them time, but everyone knew the aliens would return with greater force." Underground bunkers are at 90% completion, he reported to the War Council. All civilian populations have been relocated to hardened shelters. Captain Yujin Kim coordinated with Luna, based from her command post on the moon. The lunar installations were humanity's second line of defense. If the enemy reached Earth orbit, the moon's weapons would be their last hope. Railgun batteries are fully charged, she informed Earth Command. We have enough ammunition for extended bombardment. Dr. Su-Min Lee presented her latest research to the assembled military leaders. Her studies of hegemony psychology had revealed critical weaknesses in their thinking. The aliens see conquest as natural law, she explained. They believe superior technology guarantees victory. When they face unexpected resistance, their response is always the same: apply overwhelming force until the enemy submits. President Dong Hyun-yoon studied the star charts showing alien fleet movements. Intelligence reports indicated massive mobilization across hegemony space. The second and third fleets were being combined into a single invasion force. How many ships are they sending, he asked. Over 1 million vessels, replied Admiral So-young Kim, including planet-killer weapons and reality-warping technology. The numbers were staggering. Earth's entire defensive fleet numbered less than 5,000 ships. Even with their new tactics and hidden weapons, the odds seemed impossible. But Dr. Su-Min Lee had discovered something important about human psychology that the aliens could not understand. Where other species saw hopeless odds and surrendered, humans saw a challenge and fought harder. They expect us to break under pressure, she told the War Council. Every species in their empire followed the same pattern. Initial resistance followed by negotiations followed by surrender. They cannot comprehend a species that refuses to give up. War Chancellor Zekmoth commanded the combined second and third fleets from his massive dreadnought Eternal Judgment. Unlike his predecessor, he took no chances with the mysterious human capabilities. Deploy reality-warping screens, he ordered. I want space itself bent around their world. No kinetic weapons will reach us this time. His fleet was a sight that had brought terror to hundreds of worlds, planet-killer ships capable of cracking continents, dimensional weapons that could erase matter from existence, temporal disruptors that aged targets to dust in seconds. The humans used crude tactics against War Marshal Kethvar, he told his subordinates. They will find such tricks useless against proper preparation. On Mars, Commander Wu Jin Choi inspected the Red Planet's defensive installations. The Martian colonies had been evacuated, but their industrial facilities continued producing weapons around the clock. Manufacturing output is at maximum capacity, he reported. We are producing 10,000 kinetic rounds per day. The human war machine had awakened fully. Every factory, every shipyard, every research facility worked toward a single goal: survival through superior preparation and coordination. Lieutenant Commander Mi-young Park patrolled the outer system with her squadron of modified fighters. Her ships looked like standard patrol craft, but they carried weapons adapted from captured hegemony technology. Long-range sensors detect the enemy fleet approaching, she transmitted to Earth Command. Estimated arrival in 18 hours. The alien formation was truly massive. It stretched across millions of kilometers of space. Reality itself seemed to bend around the largest vessels. These were weapons designed to destroy civilizations, not just armies. But humanity had learned something during the first battle that the aliens still did not understand. Technology alone did not win wars. Adaptation, coordination, and the refusal to accept defeat were far more powerful than any weapon. Captain Dal-Su Choi studied tactical reports from his position aboard the flagship Unconquerable. Earth's fleet had been repositioned according to lessons learned from the asteroid belt engagement. All ships report ready for engagement, he announced. Kinetic bombardment platforms are charged and targeted. Dr. Su-Min Lee continued her analysis of captured alien communications. War Chancellor Zekmoth was making the same mistake as his predecessor. He saw human resistance as a temporary problem to be solved with sufficient force. The enemy commander expects us to fight like other species, she reported. He has prepared countermeasures for conventional tactics. He is not prepared for human ingenuity. Engineer Hee-jin Park worked frantically to complete her latest project. The success of the kinetic accelerators had inspired new innovations. If asteroids could be turned into weapons, what about entire moons? Lunar Mass Driver is online, she announced. We can launch the moon itself as a projectile if necessary. The idea was insane by alien standards. No species would destroy their own satellite to win a battle, but humans were not bound by alien logic. They would sacrifice anything to remain free. Admiral Tae-ho Lim coordinated with ground-based installations as the enemy fleet approached the outer planets. This time there would be no single decisive battle. Humanity would fight at every level, in every location with every available weapon. Remember what we learned in the asteroid belt, he told his commanders. The aliens think in rigid patterns. They expect standard responses to standard situations. We will give them nothing standard. War Chancellor Zekmoth felt confident as his fleet entered the Sol system. His reality-warping screens would deflect any kinetic attacks. His dimensional weapons would erase human defenses from existence. This integration would proceed according to plan. Had no idea that humans had spent the last few days studying his tactics and preparing surprises that would challenge everything he thought. He knew about warfare, the pack was ready, and this time they were hunting much bigger prey. War Chancellor Zekmoth watched his reality-warping screens bend space around the human homeworld. His million-ship fleet spread across the Sol system like a plague of metal locusts. This time there would be no surprises. Deploy dimensional weapons, he commanded. Target their orbital installations first. Commander Wu Jin Choi stood in the command center of Mars Defense Station as the first alien attack struck. Dimensional beams that could erase matter from existence lanced down from space. But they struck empty air where human installations should have been. Holographic projectors are working perfectly, reported his tactical officer. The enemy is targeting fake positions. Humanity had learned from the first battle. Every apparent defensive position was a projection. The real weapons were hidden in locations the aliens would never expect. Captain Mi Young Park watched from her concealed position behind Europa as alien ships poured into the inner system. Her orders were simple. Wait until the enemy committed fully, then strike at their command vessels. Enemy fleet is spreading out to surround Earth, she transmitted. They are taking the bait. War Chancellor Zekmoth felt satisfaction as his weapons destroyed human orbital platforms. The primitive species was following predictable patterns. They were defending their homeworld in conventional ways. What he did not know was that every installation he destroyed was empty. The real defenders were waiting in positions he could not imagine. Security Chief Hyun-Soo Kim crouched in the corridors of Luna Base as alien boarding parties breached the outer hull. The attackers expected to find terrified humans cowering before superior technology. Instead, they found prepared defenders using their own weapons against them. Squad 2 flanked them from the maintenance tunnels. She whispered into her communicator. Squad 3, use the gravity generators to confuse their sensors. The alien boarding troops had conquered 1,000 worlds. They used advanced armor and energy weapons that could burn through steel. But they had never fought humans who studied their equipment mid-battle and adapted in real time. Within minutes, Hyun-Soo Kim's teams were using captured alien weapons with deadly efficiency. Every fallen invader provided new tools and technology. Every tactical exchange taught human defenders something new about their enemies. We have captured their portable shields, she reported. Reverse engineering in progress. Dr. Seung Ho Yoon worked frantically in his laboratory beneath Geneva as the battle raged overhead. His discovery would change everything, but he needed more time to complete the analysis. The alien command structure is their weakness, he announced to the War Council. They cannot function without constant orders from superior officers. Admiral So Young Kim studied the tactical displays as human forces engaged the enemy across the solar system. The aliens fought with overwhelming power but predictable patterns. Every hegemony unit waited for commands before acting. Target their command ships, she ordered. Cut off their communications and they will be paralyzed. Major Hee Jin Ko led her strike team through the twisted corridors of a captured alien vessel. Her mission was desperate but simple. Reach the enemy command ship and broadcast a surrender signal using their own equipment. Alien security forces ahead, whispered her point man. They are using energy barriers to block our advance. Use the thermal charges, she replied. We go through the hull if we cannot go through the corridor. The human assault teams moved like ghosts through the alien ship. They had studied hegemony designs for weeks, learning every weakness and vulnerability. What seemed like random attacks were actually surgical strikes at critical systems. War Chancellor Zekmoth began to feel the first stirrings of concern as reports flooded his command center. Human resistance was far more organized than expected. His boarding parties were taking heavy casualties. Some were not reporting at all. How are they fighting so effectively, he demanded. Our intelligence showed primitive weapons and basic tactics. His subordinates had no answers. The humans seemed to anticipate every alien move. They struck at unexpected targets with impossible precision. Most disturbing of all, they were using hegemony technology against its creators. Captain Dalsu Choi coordinated the defense of Earth's orbital space from his flagship. The enemy had superior numbers and advanced weapons, but they fought like they expected easy victory. Every alien attack followed standard patterns that human computers had learned to predict. Enemy dreadnought moving into bombardment position, reported his tactical officer. It is targeting the North American continent. Activate the lunar mass driver, ordered Captain Dalsu Choi. Full power shot. Engineer Haya Jin Park smiled grimly as her greatest weapon came online. The moon itself had been turned into a kinetic projectile launcher. Instead of asteroids, she could now launch chunks of lunar bedrock at relativistic speeds. The alien dreadnought's reality warping screens were designed to deflect attacking ships and energy weapons. They were not designed to stop a mountain-sized piece of the moon moving at 20% of light speed. The impact destroyed the dreadnought instantly and damaged dozens of surrounding vessels. War Chancellor Zekmoth stared at his displays in disbelief. The humans had weaponized their own satellite. Impossible, he hissed. No species would destroy their own moon to win a battle. But Major He-Jin Ko was already inside his command ship. Her strike team had fought through 3 levels of alien security to reach the bridge. Now she stood before the hegemony's most advanced communication system. Broadcast the surrender code, she ordered her technical specialist. Use their own authority protocols. The alien communication system sent out a fleet-wide message in perfect hegemony military code. Every ship in the invasion force received the same order. Stand down immediately. Surrender to human forces. The War Chancellor had ordered complete capitulation. War Chancellor Zekmoth screamed in rage as his own fleet began powering down weapons. That signal is false. Continue the attack, but the damage was done. Hegemony military doctrine required absolute obedience to command authority. The surrender signal had been broadcast using proper codes from the flagship itself. Lower-ranking officers had no choice but to comply. Across the Sol system, alien ships stopped fighting. Some commanders questioned the orders, but most simply obeyed. The rigid hierarchy that made the hegemony strong also made it vulnerable to human ingenuity. Commander Woo-Jin Choi watched thousands of enemy vessels surrender without firing another shot. Signal all units. Begin capture operations. We need their ships intact. Dr. Seung-Ho Yoon had been right. The alien command structure was their greatest weakness. Cut off the head and the body stopped functioning. Humans fought as individuals who could think and adapt. Aliens fought as parts of a machine that required constant control. Security Chief Hyun-Soo Kim emerged from Luna Base, carrying an armload of captured alien equipment. Her teams had not just repelled the boarding parties. They had captured enough technology to upgrade human defenses permanently. We now have their shield generators, she reported, and their communication codes, and their tactical databases. Captain Mi-young Park led her squadron in pursuit of fleeing alien ships. Most of the hegemony fleet had surrendered, but some vessels were attempting to escape. They could not be allowed to report human capabilities to the rest of the Empire. No survivors this time either, she transmitted. Earth secrets remain safe. Admiral Tae-ho Lim coordinated the massive salvage operation as human forces secured hundreds of thousands of alien vessels. Each captured ship contained technology that would advance human civilization by centuries. Signal Earth Command, he ordered. The 2nd and 3rd fleets have been defeated. Sol system is secure. But War Chancellor Zekmoth, dying in the wreckage of his command ship, managed to send one final message toward hegemony space. The transmission was brief but clear. The humans are not what they seem. They are more dangerous than any species we have ever encountered. Do not underestimate them again. The message would reach the hegemony capital in days. When it did, the aliens would face a choice: accept humanity as equals, or risk the destruction of their entire empire, because the wolves of Sol had proven something that no alien species could understand. Freedom was worth any sacrifice, and humans would fight for it until their last breath. President Changmin Li stood before the largest communication array ever built by human hands. His message would reach every corner of the galaxy, every world that had suffered under hegemony rule, every species that had forgotten what freedom meant. To all sentient beings across the stars, he began, "This is President Changmin Li of the United Earth Government. The age of empires is over. On the hegemony capital world of Dominion Prime, Supreme Chancellor Vextar received reports that shattered everything he thought he knew about the universe. 2 entire fleets destroyed, over 1 million ships captured or destroyed. The humans had done the impossible twice. How many vessels do we have left, he asked his military advisors. The 4th and 5th fleets remain at full strength, replied his new war marshal. But Supreme Chancellor, perhaps we should consider negotiations. Vextar's compound eyes blazed with fury. The hegemony does not negotiate with primitives. But across hegemony space the news was spreading. The humans had won. The unstoppable empire had been stopped by a single world that refused to surrender. On planets that had been enslaved for centuries, hope began to grow. Admiral Sun Hee Park commanded the Liberation Fleet that emerged from Earth's shipyards. Every vessel was built using captured hegemony technology, improved by human innovation. Her mission was simple but revolutionary. Free every enslaved world in the galaxy. First target is the Kepler system, she announced to her fleet. Intelligence reports indicate 3 slave species and minimal hegemony presence. The liberation of Kepler 442b took less than 6 hours. The hegemony garrison surrendered without firing a shot when they saw human ships equipped with their own advanced weapons. The 3 enslaved species watched in amazement as their chains were broken. Ambassador Junho Kim met with the freed alien representatives in the ruins of their former prison. These beings had known only slavery for 5 generations. The concept of voluntary cooperation was almost impossible for them to understand. You are free to choose your own government, he explained through translation devices. Earth asks nothing in return except friendship. The alien delegate stared at him in confusion. Every species they had ever known demanded tribute or service. The idea that liberators would simply leave them alone made no sense. What do you want from us? Asked the eldest delegate, a being whose species had been enslaved for over 200 years. Nothing, replied Ambassador Junho Kim. You are free, that is enough. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out on world after world. Human liberation fleets arrived with overwhelming force, destroyed hegemony garrisons, and then simply left. They offered alliance but demanded nothing. They provided technology but claimed no territory. Dr. Na Young-Yoon studied reports from liberated worlds with fascination. Her research into galactic psychology revealed something extraordinary. Most species had never experienced true freedom. The concept of voluntary cooperation was alien to beings who had known only domination or submission. They keep asking what we want from them, she reported to the Terra Council. They cannot believe that we fight for freedom itself, not for gain. Supreme Chancellor Vextar made his final decision as reports of lost worlds flooded his command center. The humans were systematically dismantling his empire. Every day brought news of another liberated system, another freed species, another human victory. Deploy the Annihilator fleet, he ordered. If we cannot rule the galaxy, then no one will. The Annihilator fleet was the hegemony's final weapon. Planet-killer ships that could destroy entire solar systems. Reality-warping vessels that could erase matter from existence. They had never been used because their power was too terrible to control. Captain Dal Su Choi received the intelligence report aboard his flagship as Earth's main fleet patrolled the liberated sectors. The enemy was preparing something massive. Every available hegemony vessel was converging on human space. They are bringing everything they have left, he reported to Admiral Sun Hee Park. Over 10 million ships, including weapons we have never seen before. But humanity was no longer the small, isolated species that had first defied the hegemony. Every liberated world had provided volunteers. Every freed species contributed technology and knowledge. Earth now commanded the largest voluntary alliance in galactic history. Commander Sung Jin Nam led a mixed squadron of human and alien vessels toward the final battle. His crew included beings from 12 different species, all united by a simple desire to remain free. Signal from Earth Command, announced his communications officer, a 6-armed being whose world had been freed just weeks earlier. All liberation fleets are to converge on the Sol system. Dr. Na Young-yoon worked frantically to coordinate the diverse alliance forces. Every species fought differently. Every world contributed unique capabilities. The challenge was not defeating the hegemony, but organizing dozens of different military traditions into a single force. The Zentari contribute stealth technology, she reported. The Corvani provide energy shields. The Nexus worlds offer psionic detection systems. The final battle took place not in space but in the realm of ideas. Supreme Chancellor Vextar arrived at Earth with his Annihilator fleet, expecting to face primitive humans and their simple allies. Instead, he found something that challenged the very foundation of his worldview. President Changmin Lee met with him aboard a neutral station, surrounded by representatives from over 100 liberated worlds. The sight that greeted the hegemony leader was impossible by his understanding of natural law. Dozens of species working together voluntarily. No supreme ruler, no chain of command enforced by fear. Just beings from across the galaxy cooperating because they chose to do so. This is unnatural, Vextar declared. Hierarchy is the foundation of civilization. The strong must rule the weak. You are wrong, replied President Changmin Lee. Cooperation is stronger than domination. Freedom is more powerful than fear. To prove his point, the president made an offer that stunned every alien present. Join us, not as subjects or vassals, but as equals. Help us build something better than empire. Supreme Chancellor Vextar could not comprehend the offer. In his mind, there were only rulers and ruled. The idea of voluntary partnership between equals made no sense. But his subordinates understood. One by one, hegemony commanders began switching sides, not through conquest or coercion, but through choice. They had seen what freedom looked like, and they wanted it for themselves. The Annihilator fleet never fired a shot. Instead, it became the foundation of the new Galactic Federation's defense force. Ships designed to destroy worlds were converted to explore new ones. Weapons of oppression became tools of protection. 5 years later, Captain Dal-Su Choi stood on the observation deck of New Geneva Station, watching children from dozens of different species play together in the station's central garden. Their parents worked side by side in laboratories and factories, building a future none of them could have imagined under hegemony rule. Dr. Na Young-yoon joined him at the observation window. Her latest research showed remarkable results. Crime rates were down across all Federation worlds. Scientific advancement had accelerated beyond all projections. Art and culture flourished as never before. Freedom works, she said simply. Captain Dal-Su Choi nodded as he watched a human child teaching an alien youngling how to play an ancient Earth game. We proved that cooperation beats conquest. That voluntary alliance is stronger than forced empire. In the distance, construction ships worked on humanity's greatest project yet. Not a weapon or a fortress, but an academy where beings from every world could learn together, where the lessons of freedom could be taught to generations yet unborn. The age of empires was truly over. The age of cooperation had begun, and it had all started with a simple message from a small blue world that dared to say no to tyranny. Earth had proclaimed its independence. The galaxy had listened, and the universe would never be the same.